Welcome to the #1 show and the source of truth for all things MedTech. Here, we reveal the secrets and stories behind the investments, science, and commercialization of the MedTech industry. Every week, we'll take you on a wild ride with the biggest names in the game, from entrepreneurs and investors who are shaking up the market to healthcare providers who are revolutionizing the way we think and practice medicine. So hold on tight and get ready for a journey like no other. This is the state of MedTech. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. And just got back from my trip in San Francisco. I met some of you guys in person, which was awesome. I spoke at not at Dreamforce, which is Salesforce's annual event, although the event was part of that. I spoke at Clary's event alongside Daniel Hawkins, the CEO and founder of Shockwave Medical and Avail. Luckily for you, if you were not in San Francisco when this happened, we recorded it. This will be published on the pod later on. And yeah, if you haven't noticed, also I'm running a poll because episode number 100 is coming up, and I kind of want to get a big guest for y'all. So I'm running a poll with either Kevin Lobo, CEO of Stryker, Jeff Martha, CEO of Medtronic, or Joaquin Duado, CEO of J&J, to see who you guys want. Or there's option D, which is other, in which case you would just comment. Okay. So this episode is partly stemming from somebody who's in my program. This person's a sales rep, and they wanted to move into marketing. And so this is kind of my advice about how do you do that and why you would do that from a sales standpoint. But then on the flip side, this is also part of this is going to be some advice as to, if you can't move vertically or adjacently in your own company, how do you start? Essentially, how do you quit your job and find a better one? All right. Now, before we do that, let's do a few plugs on some really great services and products for you guys that I love. So the first one is Alpha Sophia. Okay. So Alpha Sophia is essentially a company that helps you identify early adopters among surgeons, right? The most important thing is finding a way to engage and target the right physicians, which you need a commercial intelligence platform, right? Essentially something similar to Zoom Info, but much, much better, where not only do you see contact information, but more importantly, you're able to see like procedure volume, technology preferences, societies, etc. Most of these databases, which I've used in the past, are really not that great. And some of them are, but they're really, really expensive. Alpha Sophia, what I love about them is that they help you target early adopters. So whether you're a startup or a huge company, when you're trying to figure out who do we sell and drive product adoption with first, they're a great platform for that. They also have adopted the same philosophy that I have, which is part of that early adoption and driving it is figuring out who are the best people who actually have large physician followings on social media. So when you're able to profile your surgeons or doctors or whatever clinical person you're trying to sell to, they also are able to show you their Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn profiles. It's a great platform. I'm really impressed with them, which is why I've partnered with them. Okay. So what I asked them to do is that for people to get a demo, I didn't want it to just be a demo. I want you guys to get something out of it. So they're going to give you 3 free profiles, meaning that if you have a territory, or you have a specific doctor, you go tell them that. They'll open up their platform and show you how to use it. But then more importantly, show you how to download, and they'll give you that information for free. So you get 3 surgeon profiles. So the way you get that is go to alphasophia.com/Omar. So their name is spelled ALPHASOPHIA.com/Omar. Second thing is, if you're a medical sales rep or maybe you're in marketing, you want to level up to understand how do you use network effects on social media to essentially drive sales? How do you sell remotely, right? This is where everything's going. Look, I just came from Dreamforce, where the entire SaaS industry, that's all they do, right? So to really improve your skill set, develop your talent stack, one recommendation I have is join my program, right? My program, the Medical Sales Network Effects, has had fantastic results, including this is one result of many. This is what one rep had to say after going through the program for 3 weeks. This is the result that he got.
I tried to reach out to this one surgeon. I posted recently on LinkedIn about Spinal Elements launching a bunch of new products in this year in 2023. He accepted my connection request, liked that comment, and 2 days later booked a case with this new technology that we had showed him 2 days prior. A methodical step. So in the surgery yesterday went pretty well. He agreed to try it again. It was a win-win-win of getting the connection on LinkedIn to seeing our content, having a good inter-office meeting from a standpoint of being able to talk with the surgeon about the new technology and what his peer was doing, and then having a successful case where he would want to use the product again.
Which is a pretty amazing result. That doesn't happen with everybody, but the most important thing is that when you use LinkedIn and social media in this way, you're able to drive these kind of results. Plus, if you think about it, learning these things allows you to move into higher roles, whether it's director of sales or maybe you want to move into marketing. And we have this amazing community of VP CEOs plus live calls. And again, if you want to get more mentorship from me, look, I love mentoring people. I can't do it for everybody. The easiest way is join the program. You're able to get direct access to me, but also these amazing group of people. So you can join it right now. Instead of paying $3,000, I have a huge discount for you. Just check the show notes below and click that link, and you can go sign up for the program. And it's fantastic. Whether you're an associate or a VP or anything else, join this program. I promise you, you're going to love the kind of results you get and the community. And then lastly, if you're not already, follow us on Instagram at All Hail Medical Sales. State of MedTech also has an Instagram channel, but I'd say the one that I engage with everybody the most often, I run polls for Solo Pod Fridays, is the Instagram handle, All Hail Medical Sales. All right, so now after all that, let's get into today's topic, which is moving into marketing. So I had somebody who's in the Medical Sales Network Effects program, doing a great job, is a rep, and decided to move. They want to move into marketing. Now, the unfortunate part was that this person, when he went and talked to their VP of marketing, the VP of marketing didn't feel like he had the experience, which I've heard that so many times in my own career earlier on. And so I gave him some advice as to what he can do to get closer to that person to demonstrate that value. But at the same time, look, part of the thing of going through the medical sales to create content on your own and develop thought leadership. So perfect example, Vendela Martin, who sells to gynecologists, has been engaged in this thing called V Notes, which is specific for the gynecology community. She's been doing this for just 3 weeks, and already physicians are tagging her in posts. There's an OBGYN podcast that referenced her, right? And so the reason why I say this is that using LinkedIn obviously helps you in your day job, right? Helps you grow your territory, reach people, influence them. At the same time, it's kind of free advertisement for you because companies and hiring managers see you and say, wow, that I wish all our employees are like that. Maybe we should hire that person. So kind of plays both ways. All right. So let's start with marketing. Okay. Why do you move into marketing? Okay, as a sales rep? Because the first thing that's going to happen is you will make less money. Okay. So for context, your base salary will be much higher, right? So, marketing managers, I don't know, it depends on where they are, but based on my knowledge, a marketing manager can get paid anywhere from $90K up to 110, 120K. The marketing manager I have working for me in my last company, I paid him 120K. Okay. After that, when you get into the director roles can get anywhere from 150 to 220, 225. And then if you're a VP and above, that's 200 to 300, sometimes more. It's rare, right? And then of course there's a bonus structure, but you will technically you have a chance to make more money in sales. So why move into marketing? On the financial side, here's the thing. If you haven't noticed, marketing in our industry is CEO training school. Okay. The majority of CEOs you see in our industry all went through marketing. And the reason why is because marketing in the MedTech industry is one of the few departments that literally touches every single department. We deal with finance, we deal with product, we deal with sales, we deal with R&D, we deal with legal, everything, right? And so that's one side of it. The other side of it is the strategy, okay? And this is what got me to move from rep into marketing. So way back in the day when I was a rep carrying the bag, I wanted to move up into a VP of sales role, but then I realized that kind of takes a good amount of time. And what I was really interested in was strategy. And what I realized, especially because I was groomed and mentored by some of the early class at Intuitive, Intuitive was a marketing-led organization. Marketing was the one that decided what to say, who we're going to sell to, so on and so forth. And I said, you know what? If that's the case, I want to be part of that group. I want to be at the table. That was the most important thing for me in my career. I did not care. And this is one recommendation I have for you guys. For those of you who are like early in your career, especially if you don't have family, don't focus on making money right away. Like, obviously make money, but if you're short-sighted and just looking purely at how much money can I make, you're going to miss the opportunity to gain and sit in the rooms when board meetings were happening, right? That's not going to happen when you're in sales. Even if you're a director, the only person from the sales team that is allowed in the boardroom is usually the VP. But if you're the, let's say not the VP of marketing is obviously in the room, but if you're a director, a manager, maybe you're not in the room, but you're helping making those decks. So you're getting to learn and understand, how do you run a company, right? That's the most important thing. Any schmuck on the street can learn, like, sales, and, sales is difficult, right? But you want to learn how to run a company, right? You want to understand what are COGS, right? What are acquisition costs? What's our, time to value? What does our pipeline look like, right? What's our product line look like? All these things are very, very important. Okay. So that was the first thing that got me to move into marketing. Now, the problem with our industry, okay, is that our industry, and I don't know how to say this. The number one problem with marketing in MedTech is the fact that it's not marketing, right? Most marketing in MedTech is actually just product management, right? And then they do marketing a few times a year as a hobby when they go to a conference, okay? And this is why marketing and sales always bash heads, okay? So for me, while yes, I think products and product management is obviously extremely important, that's not marketing to me. Marketing to me, by definition, is the molding of a market, which is a commercial activity, right? Which is involving sales. If you're in marketing and you haven't gotten to the point where you've made it so that people think ka-ching, like that's the thing that makes the register ring, that's the thing that drives revenue, you're not doing a good job. You're not marketing. If you are not getting pulled into demos or customer engagements by the sales team because you are so good at understanding the product, in my opinion, you're not doing a good job in marketing, right? Those things you have to go for. So let's go back to the case in point. How do you make that transition from sales to marketing? Well, the first thing is that you have to understand that when you're in a company, there's a psychological thing that happens to you and your brand. So if you're a rep, you're a rep. It's very difficult to undo that brand. Meaning, like, it's hard for you as a rep to go from rep to product manager or like an engineer, right? It's just not going to happen, right? Unless you're in a startup. Okay. But even then, it's really, really, really tough because the packaging that you're in has already been set, and that sort of sits in somebody's mind. And so for somebody to say, hey, that's kind of a risk, right? Because think about it. If you're running a company and you decide to promote somebody into some role for the first time and that does not work out, it's on you, right? So how did it happen for me at Mazor? That's where I got promoted to marketing manager. I actually applied to be a product manager, okay? But at the time, I actually demonstrated, unbeknownst to me, I just thought I was doing, that was what I was supposed to do. I was really good at patient marketing, okay? Like with all my accounts, I was damn good at patient marketing, and I showed, because I studied a lot, like this higher ability and skill set when it comes to marketing. And so at the time, the CEO of Mazor Inc., Chris Prentice, so that was the US division of Mazor, noticed this. And he talked to our VP of sales, Chris Sells, and then they both came and talked to me and said, hey, look, Omar, with all, we want to be honest with you. Number one, you don't technically qualify for the product management role, which is not a problem. The only thing is that we've already promoted somebody internally into that role. However, that just made the US marketing manager role vacant, and we really think you should be in there, right? And originally, I wasn't crazy about that, but I listened to them mainly because Chris Sells, my late and grade mentor, gave me the advice to say, hey, look, Omar, there are thousands of salespeople out there, right? Go internally, go work next to Prentice, right? Report to him, learn how the company works, learn how the organization drives adoption, learn all these things. And after a couple of years, you can go back into sales, right? That was the thing. And so I did that, but I never looked back. Now, once I was in, though, the most important thing was to understand what is marketing and how do you become very good at it. And what I decided to focus on, and this is a very intentional thing in my career, was I said, okay, in the MedTech industry, all of these marketers are actually product management people. And at the time, I was getting more exposure to software and growth marketing, which was all about money. And so I was like, man, this is an interesting discrepancy because in med device and med tech, all the salespeople are complaining that marketing isn't doing a good job. They're not getting good leads, et cetera. And marketing's not doing anything about it. Marketing just does their thing and hands them leads and says like sales isn't doing a good job. And then marketing goes back to doing like KOL development, running labs, doing product development, which is all important, right? But that's not pipeline, right? That's not what grows revenue. And so I thought, I'm like, okay, I'm now in the ivory tower. I'm in a place where we set strategy. And so if I decide to focus my skill set on learning how do I help the company make more money, every board member will talk about that. Every salesperson will talk about it. Like I will make a name for myself. And so that was very intentional. And so I focused on saying, now I'm going to give you 3 books that every single marketer that I have mentored, every person who has gone on since I've mentored them to become like a director of growth, a VP of marketing, so on and so forth. These books I tell them to read, and I'm telling them to you. And even if you're a sales rep now and you have no interest in going into marketing, read these books because you will make more money as you raise the level of your business acumen. And most importantly, always remember, I mean, Elon Musk, I'll say this, like Elon Musk said it best, you will be paid in proportion to the complexity of the problems that you solve. And so in order to get to that level, you have to start understanding how do you solve for complex problems. Okay. So one of those complex problems, instead of selling one-to-one, which is what many of you guys do, and gals, guys and gals, you know what I mean? You're selling one-to-one. How do you sell one-to-many without talking to them, right? That's marketing. Okay. So these are the books I want you to buy. If you are smart, you buy these books now. You just get on your Amazon and buy them. Worry about when you're going to read them later. Just buy them now, okay? Number 1, and let me run through them real quick. These are the books you buy. So every person I've mentored in marketing has read these books, okay? I'm going to run through them real quick, and then I'm going to dive into each one why. Number 1, The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by Al Ries and Jack Trout. Number 2, Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. And number 3, Hacking Growth by Sean Ellis. Okay, let's go through them. Okay, so the first one, which needs to be like your Bible, 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. Okay, this book is literally 129 pages. If you talk to anybody from J&J who got trained through Procter & Gamble, they know about this book. Okay, this is an important book because these laws are still applicable to today. Okay, and the laws, they have laws such as the law of leadership, the law of category, law of mind. The most important thing is that when you understand these laws, you understand how to craft and mold messaging and drive product adoption. Versus what most marketers do today, they don't know any of this stuff. It's actually pretty laughable. And to be perfectly honest, it's not just our industry. Trust me, most marketers, mediocre at best. Okay, all industries. Okay, and I would say, in my opinion, the most important of these laws, I would say this is the first 6 laws, 1 through 6, law of leadership, category, mind, perception, focus, and exclusivity. I think those are, in my opinion, the most important ones. The after that, those are all important laws. So you buy this book, you read it a few times. Look, this book, I've had this book since 2016. I shouldn't have waited that long to read this, right? 2016, I was in the middle of my my first marketing role, but I found out about this book because, again, unfortunately, in our industry, this is why I started this podcast. We don't have a tradition of mentorship or good mentorship, in my opinion, right? So, anyways, yeah, I read this book in 2016, and then I have a note here. So, 2016, I reread it again in 2017, right? And this book is just marked up. I've put some work into this. This is marked up with a lot of notes. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one, Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. So This is the subtitle to this is Marketing and Selling Disruptive Products to Mainstream Customers. This book was the Bible for intuitive surgical. Okay. As you can see, there's a chart here, which many of you, if you follow me, you know that I've talked about this, which is the technology adoption curve. Originally, this work was developed over 50 years ago by a guy named Everett M. Rogers in his book, The Diffusions of Innovation, or Diffusion of Innovation. Okay, he did a lot of research on, like, when farmers adopt some new hybrid corn, what type of farmers usually adopt them, right? To understand the psychology of this. Jeff Moore is a high-tech marketer. Coincidentally, just because I became friends with him and I've had him on my show. Prior to his marketing career, he was actually a Stanford literature professor, which explains why he's so good at writing. But this book breaks down the different types of adopters. Like, if you heard the term late adopter, early adopter, it all comes from this book. And again, so I read this book. I know I read this book back in like 2014 or 2013, but then this edition, because I lost that one, this one, it was noted as 2017. And again, you can see in this book, look at all the tags and earmarks and highlights. I've destroyed this book. I need to get a new one, but I kind of like holding this old one. Now, why is this important as a marketer? What's important about it is that as a marketer, you're trying to drive product adoption. So it's important to understand what type of adopters do you need? Like, are you early market, late market? Where are you? Right? And the psychology of each one of those groups, because the psychology of, let's say, a technology enthusiast, which is the very first part of early adoption, is actually very different than the psychology of a visionary, who's the second part of the early adopter market. Okay. And knowing those differences are important because you start to understand, right, their psychological preferences for messaging and how you deal with them. Okay. If you are launching a product, you got to understand this, especially if you're in a startup world, you got to understand this, right? And I would say, like, in a funny way, I said, like, every startup marketer should read this book. I mean, I don't want to use this term marketing versus, if you're selling stuff, if you're commercializing, you need to read these things, okay? But I'd say even more important, like, if you're a sales or marketing person at a J&J, a Medtronic, a Stryker, even more important, because unlike a startup, you deal with the entire adoption curve. Like, your company has adopters from all these different areas, from early market to late market to laggards, right? And so understanding this is really important. And again, Jeff Moore wrote this in Silicon Valley. This is all about marketing and selling disruptive products to mainstream customers. And it's all about selling high-tech stuff. Okay. This is a classic in Silicon Valley. And in my opinion, behind me and on my bookshelf, I have Jeffrey Moore's entire body of work. I have all of his other books. He has The Gorilla Game. He has Escape Velocity. I can't remember the other one. Inside the Tornado. So inside, like, for example, you've heard this term crossing the chasm. Probably some of you heard about it from Simon Sinek. Well, that was all Jeffrey Moore's work. So crossing the chasm, which is the point around 15 or 18% of market share where you cross this chasm to the mainstream market, that little chasm has an entire book dedicated to it, right? So understanding these things are important. And again, going back to what Elon Musk said, you will get paid in proportion to the complexity of the problems that you solve. Okay. So if you're able to sit down and look at a market and ask these kind of questions, right? Just knowing these kind of questions to ask and talk through in an interview will elevate you, right? That's another key tip. Again, for some of you who are interviewing or going to start interviewing this year, you make the mistake of trying to impress somebody with saying things. You really want to impress people, impress them with the quality of question you ask them. When you ask a certain type of question, you know who you're dealing with, right? You know who you're dealing with. Very much like, when I talk to, some, like, a rep from a random company about my company, right? Versus when I talk to a Daniel Hawkins, who, I had he's become a good friend of mine. So I sat down with him this past week when I was in SF just to catch up, and he asked about my company because I was getting some advice from him, right? The guy has founded and sold multiple companies. Intuitive employee number 6. He literally set the price of the robot at $2.1 million back then. Founded Shockwave Medical, which went public. Questions he asked me, if I met him off the street, I would know. I'm like, man, I'm dealing with, like, I'm dealing with a real business person here. Okay. And then the third book is Hacking Growth. So Sean Ellis, where did he start? I want to say it was Dropbox. Yes. So Sean Ellis, he's the guy who literally coined the term growth hacking back in 2010 when he worked at Dropbox. And this guy is, like, I would say, the founding father of growth marketing, right? And growth marketing, which, by the way, for those, interesting factoid, I was the first growth marketing anything in the medical device industry back in 2017. There's no heads of growth, no nothing. When I went to Potrero, I told Joe Urban, I was like, I want to be the head of growth marketing. He's like, what is that? He's like, and I mean, and I explained, and he got it. He's like, well, do you think anybody else knows in the industry? I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to make it a thing. That worked out really well for me too. But Hacking Growth goes through the experiments and more importantly the methods. So let me read to you some of the sections. So the method, the growth hacking playbook, acquisition, activation, retention, monetization, growth cycle, right? It goes through the exact playbook of how you need to create and launch experiments. This book, when did I read this book? I read this book in 2019 because I had been reading about growth hacking. I didn't read the book, and I read this right when I was at Potrero. And so when it comes to growth, right? One of the ways that I applied it, this is before I knew what growth hacking was I was at Restoration Robotics. I was running Facebook campaigns to do lead generation and acquisition for patients, right? And so understanding growth hacking is important because, again, we live in this digital world. So, like, for example, if you're a salesperson or marketer and you're going to run a webinar series, right? How do you growth hack that, right? How do you drive attendance, and how do you make this sort of virtuous cycle of growth, right? So all these things are really important. Now, who's the kind of person that should go into marketing? I think that you should go into marketing if you are interested in strategy, if you're interested in systems-based thinking. Okay. And there's no knock on salespeople, but some people, they want to be given a task, they want to be given a playbook, and then they go out, they hunt and kill, make their money, and that's it. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to get more leverage in your career, my personal opinion, become a marketer, right? Because think about it like this: you can be the greatest salesperson in our industry. A lot of times you get pigeonholed in a specific specialty. When you try and get out of that specialty, maybe you can, maybe you can't. Marketing, you have a lot more flexibility. Look, for me in my career, I went from I did 2 robotics companies. I did one robotic spine company, one robotic aesthetic company. I did critical care, predictive health. I did AI, I did SaaS, and somewhere in there I also did consumer, right? So I was able to move around quite a lot. The other thing is that I think the value of marketing is that, unlike sales, again, if you're a sales rep, like, you're given a playbook. Unless you get to the level of a director or a VP of sales, you're not really developing anything, all right? Definitely not strategies and playbooks, okay? You might develop like a territory strategy, but you're not coming up with messaging, right? And so if you want to have an immense amount of responsibility, go into marketing. And I think in my opinion, and it's hard to find these places, but at least, like, for those of the people who are in my program, I try and recommend them into roles. That wasn't like a feature of the program originally, but a lot of people joined the program. People heard about it. CEOs started asking me if I had recommendations, and so a lot of times the only people I feel comfortable recommending are people who went through my programs. At least I know that they're trained in the methodology that I believe in when it comes to driving commercial growth. But yeah, I mean, again, I think that product management is important, but, and sorry if you can hear him, my son's in the background playing. When it comes to going into marketing, understanding product is important. I think it is definitely important. But if you think about Shark Tank, the show, when any company goes on to raise money, what are the 2 reasons that they're on? It's either that they need money to buy and develop inventory, or they need money for marketing. Nobody goes on because they need money for product management. Okay. It's the same thing today. Like, Peter Drucker had a very famous saying, which is business has only two functions: innovation and marketing, right? And so, unless you're ready to like stay at a company for many, many years, right? Don't go into product or product management. Go into marketing. Learn how to engineer a market. Okay. It's another, and I'm going to do more of these marketing episodes, right? But I think that's the most important thing. Now let's talk about those of you who, let's say, like in the case of the person who's in my program who got passed up. So here's my recommendation to you: if you're a salesperson, you're trying to get into marketing, okay? No matter how good you are at sales, you've branded yourself. You're a salesperson. It's very hard to undo that brand. So the best thing to do is to volunteer to help marketing. If you, as a salesperson, are able to provide really good insights, or you become, like, for example, get really good at running patient marketing events or some kind of marketing events, marketing will lean on you as a great example, and you can go to marketing and say, hey, I want to get more involved in marketing. I want to learn more. Can I help and pick up some responsibilities? That is the first way. Most people don't like to do that, but hey, you know what? It's a lot better than going and getting some nonsense MBA or some marketing certification. I have no problem with MBAs, but personally, unless you want to go into management consulting or you're going to climb the corporate ladder at J&J, don't get an MBA. Okay. The number one reason you get an MBA is to put a stamp on your resume and to network with that alumni group. There's nothing you're going to learn at an MBA that you can't learn right now through the internet and through reading. It's just a discipline thing, right? It's my own personal opinion. Um, so, so that's number one, is like, go and ask for the responsibilities, right? In any company, especially startup, there's a long line of people looking to take credit. There's a very short line of people taking responsibility. That was one of the big things I took advantage of when I was early in my career. I noticed there's a lot of things that nobody wanted to get done. I went and got them done. I raised my hand to take responsibility. When things went well, I deflected the credit to the team, and when things went wrong, I took the responsibility on myself and said it was my fault. Okay. And those are the things that people recognize. Again, one thing that you have to think about as a salesperson, like, you need to sell yourself. So if somebody's going to take a chance on you, let's say you're a full line medical device rep, maybe you're a territory manager, you want to go into marketing, you should lower your expectations for this thing. Again, you just need to step in and apply for either marketing manager roles or associate roles. Might be a dock and pay, but hey, you find a better way to do this, you let me know. And once you get in the role, you can really flex your muscles and demonstrate. And it's only temporarily, right? For me, when I got into marketing, I got a pay raise in terms of my salary, but my overall pay went down. But I knew that what I was paying for was essentially marketing school, right? That's the way you got to look at this. Okay. And if you're in a company where you don't have those opportunities and marketing is not giving you a chance, what you need to do, and again, I tell this to the people in my program, part of engaging on LinkedIn with doctors, creating content, all these things, of course, is to sell and grow your pipeline. The other side of it is a great way to market yourself. And so a lot of times, whether you're getting into the industry, every one of you who got into the industry, it was not because of your skills. Because probably when you got in, you didn't have many skills, you didn't have a background or a resume. It's because somebody saw something in you and took a chance. I think that one of the most underrated things you can do these days is to have promise, right? And so what you need to do is create this package where somebody looks at you today and is able to imagine who you can become for their organization in the future, and is willing to take that chance, right? I mean, look, a lot of the best mentees I had, that's how it started. They did the right things to get on my radar, and I saw who they can become, right? And I invested in them, whether I hired them or I mentored them or something, right? And so those are the things that I highly recommend doing. Um, and some of the easiest things, like I'll tell you, um, and maybe in another episode I'll have more specific instructions on this. But for me, when I was trying to make my jump, again, I'll give you $1 million advice here. If you're able to solve for the problem of how do I get attention, a lot of things follow. You cannot persuade without attention. When you're able to get attention, sustain it, and then channel it in a direction, people pay a lot of money for that, right? I started a business because I got good enough at that. Okay. And so, that being said, when I was trying to move out to San Francisco, at the time, like I had a few years of being a marketing manager under my belt, but I was a guy in Florida, so to move to Silicon Valley, like Silicon Valley had all the best marketers in the world there. But I got very creative. I started writing an article a week about marketing strategies. Some of you who've known me for a long time, my first viral article was an article called "Democratizing Surgery." It's all about back when Verb existed. I wanted to work for Verb Surgical. Thankfully that didn't happen because I don't think the company did as well as it should have. Although there's a lot of great people who work there. But anyways, I wrote this article about what I thought their marketing strategy should be in terms of designing a category and everything. And it was so spot on that their CEO, that's how Scott Hunnekins found out about me. Their VP of marketing, I got on everybody's radar because I wrote this article. You never know. Many of you are literally one good post away, one comment away from getting on the radar of some of the most powerful and influential people in our industry. Getting on LinkedIn and engaging, making posts, commenting. I mean, it's like playing the slot machines, my friends. For me, it was just like at the time, it was a way for me to practice writing and a reason for me to like share what I was learning and just kind of make sure that I really understood it. And it changed my career, changed my life, right? And so I think that something special happens when you really put yourself out there. And so my recommendation, again, just kind of wrap this up, if you're interested to go into marketing, buy these 3 books, read them, okay? Start following some of these people, post about what you're learning in these books, right? I mean, I guarantee you post a picture of you crossing the chasm and saying, so excited to read this book. And by the way, if you buy these books and you post about them, go ahead and tag me. I'll engage with your content. Okay. Share that story. And the most important thing I think is put yourself, there's a saying in Silicon Valley, when you want to raise money, ask for advice. And when you want advice, ask for money. So for many of you, if you want the job, don't ask for the job, ask for advice. So read these books, reach out to leaders in our industry and ask just, hey, I really admire your career. I'd love to get you on the phone for like 10 minutes just to hear and get advice from you, right? And you're gonna have to try hard. Like some people are really busy and you have to be persistent. There's some of you have sent me more than one message, and again, I get blown up in my inbox all the time, but some of you have like stayed consistent with it, and I end up like giving you a call. Instead of just replying back to your questions, I just give you a call. So buy these books, read them, and again, even if you're in sales and you are not interested in going to marketing, start leveling up your business acumen, right? Start learning how to solve more complex problems, because if you are the type of person that an organization can look to reliably solve a complicated problem, you'll get bigger and bigger responsibilities, and ultimately more money comes with that. If you think about it, at the end of the day, like why does the VP of whatever get paid more than the person who's doing the job? It's really because that person is assuming a much greater load of responsibility. It's not necessarily the level of work that's being done. It's the level of responsibility and complexity of the problem that they got to solve. So with that being said, I hope you like this episode. Let us know what you think about this episode. If you're on YouTube, you can comment. If you're on Spotify, just scroll down and there's a poll. Every one of our episodes on Spotify has these polls where you can actually leave your thoughts. You can either comment on what you thought about the episode or even share like some ideas for the next one. And as always, keep sending me the ideas on All Hail Medical Sales. And yeah, that's it for now, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it. Episode 100 is going to be coming out soon. As of today, by a slight margin, looks like Kevin Lobo of Stryker is winning. So we'll see. I'm going to give this poll like a solid week to see how it plays out, and we'll see what we have for episode 100. Either way, I can guarantee you it's going to be a good one. So love you all. Please don't forget, do me a favor, write a review, subscribe, and if you think this helped you, like send this off to somebody else who you think it'll help. Okay. All right, everyone, take care and have a great weekend. Thank you for enjoying another epic episode of The State of MedTech. If you're feeling inspired and love this episode, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you never miss an episode. And be sure to give us 5 stars and write a short review because that helps more people discover this amazing community of ours. If you're a company who has a executive that you'd like to be on the show, or perhaps you want to sponsor one of the episodes, shoot us an email at hello@khateebandco.com. Take care, and we'll see you next time.